What is going on, everyone? We're back with a new review for the next Armchair Thriller. This is called Quiet as a Nun. Please remember to check the link in the description below if you're over on YouTube. It will let you go, it will take you to the Patreon where you will be able to subscribe and get everything a full week early unless I've absolutely started messing things up, which I'm really close to doing. I'm like running out of time to get things done. And honestly, the Armchair Thriller has killed a lot of what I had going. I was like 2 full weeks ahead of everything, like 2 full weeks. And like now I'm recording this to release it in like less than 12 hours. So, and it all started as soon as I hit Armchair Thriller. Like, it's been rough. It's been rough. But anyways, we're here. I'm super excited to talk with you guys. So this is Quiet as a Nun. This was a 6-episode story, I believe, directed by Moria Armstrong. Is that directed? Or is that, yeah, directed by Moria Armstrong. I had a picture of someone show up. Did I have no clue who it was? But yeah, uh, directed by Moria Armstrong, written by Julia Jones, um, published through Thames, released April. All these episodes were released April 11th through the 27th in 1978. Again, it's a 6-episode story. Quiet as a Nun is actually a really interesting story, and it's one of the few. Honestly, it's the only one out of all of them that have had a really good ending. Not, I don't mean that in a. I don't mean that as in like. Good as in an episode. This episode was so good ending, a good ending, as opposed to a depressing ending. As a, yeah, I hope you understand what I'm talking about. I like depressing endings. I find those to be good endings, entertainment wise. But as opposed to a good and evil ending is the best way I could explain that, to differentiate the two. This was the only one that's a true good one. The closest that came to this was the very first episode, which was Rachel in Danger. Because it had the one where Rachel got out of danger, she helped save somebody's life, but then you come to the realization that she found her dad dead, even though she didn't know it was her dad at first, but she's gonna figure it out at some point in life, and that's really gonna fuck her up for the rest of life. Whereas now, in this, she helped save a whole convent. I mean, she went through some tragic things. The little girl is gonna be a little messed up for a little bit until she gets, older and realizes that she went through some stuff, but she persevered, and she'll be able to move on. So to give you, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to give you a detailed synopsis because I need you guys to understand something. Splitting 3 episodes up for one day and then not even being able to watch the next 3 for a couple days later, there's a lot of time there for me to forget things, and my short-term memory is not what it used to be. Here's what I will say. I'll try to summarize it as good as possible, or as well as possible, good as possible, however you want to say it. So, you have the main lady, who I now have already forgotten her name, by the way, even though I said it 2 or 3 times during the thing. And I might remember it by the time we're done with me explaining the story. Jemima. Her name is Jemima. See? There we go. By the way, I want you to understand how I remember her name. Throughout the entirety of watching this whole 6 episodes, her name is Jemima, and I kept singing the Hey There Delilah song in my head, but with Jemima's name instead, and that's how I remembered. What are you doing, Gil? Weird cat. You're a weird cat. Yeah. You can come say hi? Come say hi? Yeah. There's my buddy. Yeah. He likes to sit in my lap for all these if he can. Although now he's gonna wander off. But no. So Jemima's the main character. She's sleeping with her co-anchor. Her co-anchor is married. They both work for a news station, hence the co-anchor. They ran this whole story about a guy trying to get the deeds to this convent and the surrounding areas, but they were owned by one of the nuns. She would not sell. And he was trying to build condos or whatever. He was trying to turn the area into living spaces for people. And he felt that's what was best, even though really, let's be real, he just wants the money that comes from it, right? So the actual show starts off with the nun that owns the land dying. And the will that everyone had found had basically stated that the surrounding areas and the convent are being left to the main nun and the sisterhood. However, we find out later there's a second will, and we'll get to that shortly. They plant seeds to make you think that the main Jemima might be interested in this guy that wants to turn everything into condos. So they kind of make it seem like, and he is, by the way, the anchor dude's a dick and is only thinking about himself. He doesn't. He definitely doesn't remember the little things about Jemima, whereas the guy that was trying to sell condos did, right? So they almost had it playing in this way that, like, oh, she's gonna start thinking of him as like the guy that's for her and not the anchor guy, and so forth and so on. So Jemima's asked to come visit the convent, and when she gets there, she realizes things are going bad. By the end of the first or second episode, another nun dies. She's super sick, has asthma or whatever, is sitting in the infirmary, and then like never gets her meds and ends up dying in the infirmary. Jemima goes on this huge investigation, and a lot of the little girls in the place start to tell her about there being a second will, and eventually she goes into the tower where they found the other lady dead on her own and gets slapped by the Black Nun, which the Black Nun, all it is a nun, a person in a nun outfit with a black covering over the face so you can't see who it is, which is where I really started to break down who I thought it was, which I was right. Get used to that, y'all. I was like, what the black covering does is allow it to be a guy. And I feel like it's absolutely going to be the guy that's trying to sell condos, because he wants the will. He wants to be able to sell the condos, and Jemima actually thinks that the will is going to be put in his name. If she finds it was going to be left to him for him to do whatever it was that he did. So eventually, one of the older nuns there tells her of this secret passage that she knows that leads to between the tower and the main area, or the convent. She shows it to her. She goes to the path because this little girl named Tessa disappeared. There was a note left saying she'd went over to a specific family member's house, but everybody except for a couple people know that's bullshit, because she wouldn't do something like this. So that's who she's looking for. So she goes to the secret path, gets to the tower, finds Tessa. Tessa starts explaining everything to her that she knows. On the way back, she's confronted when they get back to the convent, right before they get into the main door to get back into the convent. The black nun confronts them. She shoos Tessa off. Tessa runs into the convent. And then Jemima takes on the black nun, which she failed miserably, by the way. The black nun reveals himself to be the guy I told you it was going to be, the guy trying to sell condos. He basically ties her up into the area that they're in, ties her to a gate, and it's basically like, no one's going to find you here because no one comes in here that often. He goes off to go look for the he goes to look for the will. Jemima, as she's tied there, starts praying, and some other lady comes and saves her. And it's the lady that in the beginning of the episode, in the beginning of the series, I don't remember what her actual name is, but she's drives really fast and reckless. She's the only nun that drives at this convent, which is unfortunate. And she saves her. She unties her, takes her up to her room. As soon as she leaves, Jemima goes to the office where she's pretty sure the will is going to be, and she almost walks in on the guy looking for the will, but he hides behind the door. And as soon as she flips the photo album, pulls back a photo of what I'm guessing are the wives of Jesus. I don't remember exactly. I don't know. Obviously, don't know what picture she pulled out that had the will behind it. But if she pulls out the will, she's attacked again by the black nun. The lady that untied her, the lady that could drive fast, you come to find out she's actually working with this guy. And they're talking about getting away and, finally owning the land and living life together or whatever. And they're about to kill Jemima by overdosing her on drugs, when all of a sudden one of the other main nun ladies comes in and points a gun at them and basically forces them to put the will down, walks them out, has them get in the car, they drive off. So after they drive off, she goes through and explains to Jemima that she suspected it was her that was working with somebody to have all this, and they kind of spitball things off back and forth as far as who they think did what. And so basically the nun doesn't want to involve the cops because she doesn't need the convent being under constant scrutiny again. She wants it to heal from this. She wants it to move on. She's revealed that she will be taking over for the old dying head convent lady, the head nun, the head sister. And basically says that, no one's found the will yet. Right? And everything will be left up to Jemima. Like, it's going to be her decision on what happens. So Jemima takes the letter, goes out to the pews in the church, opens it up, and come to find out that the convent and all the surrounding areas were actually left to her in the second will, and that it would be up to her what happens. So she burns the letter because she's just going to let it stay with the nuns. During all of this, by the way, we get a video of the two that were basically run off, and they get into a car wreck, which I'm guessing is because the brakes were cut. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, and as far as how they wrecked. But the car flips over, both of them die. So God took care of that, I guess. And then that's it. That's pretty much the end. Everyone asks if she's going to come back, and she pretty much makes it clear that she probably won't. And she goes off, and that's the end of the story. She goes and visits her friend's grave, or the nun that had passed away in the very, very, very beginning of the story, and then walks off. Here's the thing. There's only 5 stories, right? Only 5 stories in this entire thing. And I do think this is one of the better stories. I'm not going to tell you where I'm going to place it because we have a ranking to do at the end of all this. But I did really enjoy this. There are times when you watch things and things just come off as very predictable all the way through. And while I did eventually predict what characters correctly and events and things like that. I didn't. It wasn't all the way through. It wasn't like I got. You guys don't understand, and you hopefully will come to understand as we watch more things that I have never seen before. I have the habit of getting 15, 20 minutes into a movie, like a full-blown movie. Or, sometimes it's 10 minutes of a show, if that, 5 to 10 minutes of a show. And I have the habit of completely either predicting a good portion of it or nailing spot on. One of my favorites was, and eventually we'll cover it on this channel. Obviously, by then I've already seen it because I was watching it with Kat, my fiance. But there's an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents called Premonition, and it was so funny because her and I were watching it, and I think we made it 10 minutes into the 30 to 45 minute episode. I think it was like 30 minutes. Made it 10 minutes in, and I predicted almost every little detail 100% perfect. I was probably like 97.96% right on all of it. And there's not enough context. Like, for me, it's just what makes sense. I say how something makes sense to me, and it ends up a lot of times just being that way. It's just weird how it works out like that. But no, I did enjoy this, and I am both excited and bummed that we're coming upon the last story of the first season, but I'm ready to move on. It's like, again, I want to get back into the swing of being able to just knock out a bunch of videos and get far enough ahead that if something happens, I've got some leeway. Even if it's just watching a movie again, right? Like, I slowly make my way through the movie. We'll cover a couple stories in a movie at a time or something like that. But this has been rough. It really has. This next one is another 6-episode run, and thankfully it is the last one, because again, I am ready to move on. I just am. These haven't been bad. They've at least been entertaining. Like, if I'm ranking shows and stuff that I've seen all together, Armchair Thriller at least beats out any of the foreign stuff I've watched so far as anthology stuff. It's specifically for this channel. So we haven't covered a lot. We've covered Goosebumps, which Goosebumps is like number 1 on my list. And then probably Armchair Thriller. No. I'd rather go Goosebumps, Patient 7, Armchair Thriller, Twilight Zone from what I've seen so far, and then Bangkok Haunted, because those are the things that we've covered. But yeah, so next time, here's the thing. I don't know if I'm covering 3 episodes. I don't know if I'm covering 6 episodes. I'm being honest with you guys. Would I love to go ahead and knock out the 6 episodes all at once? Just go ahead and jump right in there and get them done? Absolutely. But there is a very good chance that does not happen. I might have to split them into 2 sets of 3. So we'll see. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and we'll see you next time. Peace.